We got breaking news out of the NFL where Terry McLaurin has gotten paid finally, has agreed to a 3-year extension with the Commanders. That's the latest from our Jonathan Jones. His new contract will reportedly pay him $96 million. That deal makes him the 6th highest paid receiver in the league by average salary, tied with A.J. Brown. And take a look at it for yourself. McLaurin has been holding in this offseason in search of a new deal in D.C., but take a look at it. That contract through 2028, and that's about right what we thought he was. Remember, it was all the conversation up there, DK Metcalf money at $33 million, and Terry coming in, back it up, tied for 6th at $32 million for Scary Terry. Joining me now, my guy, Douzable, who's actually very excited that this deal is done. When it comes to Terry getting his money, your reaction to this today?
It's about time. Commanders, right? This is a guy that's been a consummate pro, a leader in your locker room. And to your point, Brendan, you talked about it, right? We thought that would be the air where he would be in top 6, top 7 wide receiver money because he deserves that. When you look at the rest of that list, DK Metcalf, I know people were pushing back and saying he's 2 years younger than DK Metcalf, but they were in the same draft class, Brandon. A.J. Brown, same draft class, all on that list. But you know the major difference, Brandon? The consistency that they've had at quarterback versus of what Terry McLaurin has had, which has been the opposite of consistency. He's played with 8 different quarterbacks, Brandon, and no matter what, every single year he goes over 1,000 yards. And again, we see it right there, highest paid receivers. He's tied 6 with A.J. Brown. That's where I thought he should be in that range, $33, $32 million. And I think Dan Quinn knew and Adam Peters knew, the GM, that this is a guy that's been a consummate leader on our team. It's not just about what he does on the field. It's what he does in the locker room, the leadership he has on the field. And again, 2nd in the NFL in receiving touchdowns last year. So this is a great job by the Commanders. Wish it was done earlier so he can get acclimated to the training camp lifestyle and get ready for the season. But glad it got done with about 2 weeks to start the NFL season.
Plenty of time to get ready for week 1 there. For you, bigger winner here, the organization, Terry, or Jaden Daniels when it comes to this deal getting done?
Can we go letter D, all of the above? Right, because to me that's the answer, because where the Commanders want to go, Brandon, they weren't going to go without Scary Terry McLaurin. You have a young superstar in Jaden Daniels at quarterback, and he built that camaraderie and that connection with Scary Terry McLaurin. So why even mess that up? Why not bring in that veteran receiver that your young quarterback can continue to grow? So that's why I say it's multiple choice A, B, and C. No, it's D. All of the above. The Commanders win, Terry McLaurin wins, and Jaden Daniels win because of this deal.
Getting this deal done, we know how they looked last year in their division. 2nd, of course, runner-up in the NFC Championship. Now that the pen has been put to paper, where do you see them?
I put it out there earlier. I got them going to the Super Bowl this year. And I think, again, they weren't going to do that without Scary Terry McLaurin. You had a guy like Deebo Samuel. You had Laramie Tunsil to left tackle, Josh Cornerly at right tackle. So we saw this team last year. Again, they picked number 2 overall because they weren't good, Brandon. But led by Jaden Daniels, yes, they are going to the Super Bowl. Like, the Washington Commanders, I feel like, are going to the Super Bowl with the addition of this signing to Scary Terry McLaurin, because I love what they did. Last year, again, a lot of people didn't expect them to go to the NFC Championship game, but because of the superstar ability by Jaden Daniels and this offense, they were able to go there. Now they fixed some of those issues on defense. They get Terry McLaurin under contract. I think the sky's the limit for this team. I think it's Super Bowl or bust for the Commanders.
So Commanders over the defending champs and the Eagles, and then also the NFC. That's where you have.
Yeah, I have them taking it all the way to the Super Bowl on the NFC side.
Okay.
Yeah, I love the Commanders this year, man. I honestly think it's going to be a DMV Super Bowl. The Ravens and the Commanders.
I'll never live this one down. Of course, you add Deebo Samuel on the opposite side. What does that look like with Terry, obviously the number 1 and Deebo number 2?
Yeah, you love that they have different skill sets. And we kind of saw a little bit of that from Deebo Samuel throughout preseason game, because we saw him get a speed sweep on the outside. He's a guy that can run the football out of the backfield. He's a guy that's going to be a tone setter, where Terry McLaurin is going to be that guy that destroys the middle of the field. And then we saw it last year, Brandon, on some of those screen plays. He has the speed to take it the distance. He's a tough competitor. So these guys are both tough competitors, but they have different skill sets. So it'll be interesting to see how Cliff Kingsbury uses those skill sets. Will Deebo line up in the backfield sometimes to Scary Terry on the outside? Will he give some of those speed sweeps to Deebo Samuel? Will those screen plays, instead of of going to scary Terry McLaurin, will they go to Deebo Samuel? I can't wait to see how they use this offense because it's going to be an explosive offense.
Again, I want to remind people, 3 years, $96 million. Terry McLaurin agreed to that deal with the Commanders. And, of course, Force reporting that our Jonathan Jones, I want to bring you in. What have you heard about this contract? This is something we've been waiting to hear this whole summer. Finally, 2 weeks, as LeJay said before we get to week one. What have you heard about this?
McLaurin is back with the Washington Commanders. That is the way, really, this has been trending for some time. When you consider what he means to that organization, when you consider what he does in that offense, right? He is a 1,000-yard receiver every single year, similar to Mike Evans, right? His relationship with Jaden Daniels. We can go on and on. His character on and off the football field. He was always remaining with the Commanders, and 31 other teams understood that, right? There was never any real trade talk. While other teams surely were interested in his services, they didn't believe that he was ever going to come available to them. And so now you get this deal done. It's a 3-year extension that is going to carry him through the 2028 season with the Washington Commanders. I know there are some initial reports out there about this money. I would just caution slightly about the $96 million, that it averages $32 million per year. I think there's going to be some inflated numbers involved there. I won't at all be surprised to see when the real numbers come in, if this is a little bit closer to 30, be it just a shade under that. We'll see again when those numbers ultimately come in. But the point being, everyone feels good about this deal for Terry McLaurin. He has gone about things the right way with this organization over the last several years. They want to build off of last season and continue that. And so now he is back in the fold with the Washington Commanders.
And JJ, as players, it's always about the guarantee. So what have you been hearing about how much is guaranteed? How many years throughout the deal is guaranteed? And what is he getting up front?
Yeah, again, those are the numbers that we're hoping to get at some point. Initially, right, you want to get the biggest number out there, so I think that's what's happening right now. We talk about how he is signed through the 2028 season. At that point, he'll be in his mid-30s, and so usually you never see the end of that contract. So we'll ultimately see what those numbers wind up being, but surely he wins in terms of getting the headline with the average annual value, right? He can be in that graphic tied with an A.J. Brown at 6th, and so we'll see what that number winds up being. Again, it's difficult when you get a 30-year-old wide receiver, right, no matter what he means to the team, because there's not a great comparison for it, right? Outside of a Mike Evans, you look at a Cooper Kupp, you look at a Devontae Adams, there's just not a ton of comps out there. And so, again, Commanders, knowing that it had to be around 30, won't be at all surprised to learn that there's a little bit of fluff to bump him up there just to get the deal done, to go ahead and try to ultimately get back to that NFC Championship game, to build off of that and even go further.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's going to frown at $32 million, and Terry's a very happy man. And coming off a record 13 touchdowns last season, second most in the league that you hinted at. We talk about the time between week one and now to get ramped up with your QB. Of course, this isn't a 5-year relationship, just 1 year together. Right. How long is it going to take them to get in game shape? So
it's always interesting. I always say as a veteran, after like year 3 or 4, you need about 2 solid weeks to rev up to get you ready for an NFL game. Now, the interesting thing is we saw CeeDee Lamb go through this a few years ago, and it took him a few weeks into the season where he really struggled before he became CeeDee Lamb again. So you're just hoping that Terry McLaurin can pick up right where he left off with Jaden Daniels. I think those 2 solid weeks will be good enough. Now, I think we won't see the true scary Terry McLaurin until about week 2 or 3, but it's good that he's getting 2 weeks in with Jaden Daniels, and they didn't get this deal done just like a week before the season. It's almost 2 weeks out. So 2 significant weeks where you're getting that camaraderie, getting that timing down with your quarterback should be sufficient enough for scary Terry McLaurin and Jaden Daniels.
So going into it, heading into week 1, there was 3 dominoes. We now have 1 now with Terry there in D.C. You still have Hendrickson in Cincinnati, J.J. You still have Micah Parsons in Dallas. We're getting closer, as I mentioned, to week 1. Any chance we see any of those dominoes fall, or what have you heard leading up to week 1 with those guys?
Yeah, because of different positions, right, I don't think that this one impacts any of the others, right? In fact, I think each one of these, Terry McLaurin and Trey Hendrickson and Micah Parsons, are their own individual contract negotiations, right? Even you say, all right, well, Trey Hendrickson and Micah Parsons are both pass rushers, and so one could impact the other. They do not, right? Micah Parsons is talking about being the highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history. Trey Hendrickson is just trying to get into the top 3 or 4 of pass rushers in the NFL and then get some money that's guaranteed beyond 2025 with a team that historically, outside of Joe Burrow and the wide receivers, they don't do that. And so each one of these are their own sort of specific contract negotiations. And so ultimately we will see which way this winds up cutting for the Cincinnati Bengals, for the Dallas Cowboys. Jerry Jones is always a bit of a wild card when it comes to contract negotiations, as we have seen the last several weeks.
If there's any indication, Jonathan Jones, Douzable, we are getting closer to football season. That breaking news, both of you guys, for that breaking news. 3 years, $96 million for Terry McLaurin. Appreciate it as always. We'll have more at the top of the hour. But, of course, when it comes to everything on Sundays, I mentioned it, Week 1 is getting here. It returns September 7th. Count on Sundays. You can watch all the local games on CBS and Paramount Plus. And don't forget, we got you covered on HQ as well.